is the customer always right? The short answer is no. But it doesn't stop there. This isn't a one-word answer.
No.
So we really need to peel it back. Now let's think about that. And I'm going to ask you guys, is the customer always right?
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroads Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our doors open. We're your hosts, Taylor, Matt, and Shelby, and we'll bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and may even throw in a plug for you to do business with us.
All right, welcome back, Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, episode 10.
Hey, it's a big week, double digits.
Hey, if this thing makes it to the media, I think we're beating a lot of people out there.
I think 10, consistency of bringing Northwest Arkansas just humble, real-world advice.
Real world advice, not fluff, not headliners, just real world of what we've seen, been a part of, what we got punched with, and what works good for us. So this week, we are fully breaking it down. Is the customer always right?
I can't wait.
Hang on, you need to know the customer is not always right.
No, but
I'm going to debunk that for you. There's more to it. So make sure you stick
it.
around to this whole thing. Because the customer is not always right, but there's a way to handle it so they always feel like
that's a better way to
right.
put it.
So we're going to break that down. How to acquire a customer, the things and the parts to all of that. Mm-hmm. Customer retention, keeping that customer.
That's
Since
important.
1946, we'd say no pressure, no hassle, just tradition. That tradition is taking care of the customer. When to be okay with letting a customer move on. And I guess all things customer resolution and how to handle situations. So we got a lot to unpack today.
We really do.
Mm-hmm. Hey, but recapping last week, we went over the Construction Development Awards, which was a huge deal.
That was big.
We took the cake.
The Showcase Award was a really big deal. We were proud
Steve
of that.
Clark called it the Showtime Award.
I know, and that fired me up because we tell our guys that. So
Well, you know why they laughed about it? Because Kerry Crawford says Showtime.
It's always showtime. So huge deal there. We were completely out of our element, but excited to be in there. And then also, adding our commercial service shop. And then the big deal, vendors. How are they representing your company?
That's right.
You have to check that out. But more into that episode, you got to dive back into it from last week. Hey, remember to check us out online at lewissuperstore.com and hit that like and subscribe button to make sure you're getting all the content as it comes out.
That's right. Hey, in November it is. That means a couple things are happening. Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys had a great Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Black Friday specials are out, Section 179. But, this topic's about what'd you drive today. And we drove something with a 6.5-foot bed. Okay?
Yes.
And it's not because we needed to stop by Home Depot or Lowe's, but it was because Section 179 treats a 6.5-foot bed a little bit different.
Two things on Section 179. How do they write it off?
So, number one is how do they write it off? You have to get qualifications for certain vehicles. So, if a vehicle has a 6.5-foot bed or longer, you get to write off 100% of it. If it's less than that, you still get to write off $25,000 plus 20% nominal depreciation. So, for example, this truck we drove up here today, we drove up a 3/4-ton Ram that's got a 6.5-foot bed. All right. So, for example, if you're a business owner, and I don't mean big business owner, all businesses. So if you're a plumber, let's say you got chicken houses, let's say you got a garden, let's say you just sell stuff on eBay.
You're just
or
in
on market.
business.
You're just in business. Maybe it's just a side hustle.
Yeah.
You can write off 100% of the vehicle.
When?
Okay. In year one. So this vehicle, for example, this one's got an MSRP of $72,000.
Okay.
That means in year one, you could take $72,000 deduction
Off the top.
Now, if you're like, well, Matt, that sounds great. That's a little too rich for my blood. We're just getting our business started. I just need a good used vehicle. Hey, if you find a used vehicle, that's one of the myths out there. It also qualifies for Section 179.
Yeah.
We've got over 500 vehicles in stock that qualify for Section 179. So come check those out.
So what was just a quick, how much does it need to weigh if it doesn't have a bed to write it off?
So 2 things on that section 179 there. You know, if it's got a bed, if it's 6.5 foot or longer, you can write off 100% of it. If it is a vehicle and it's 6,500 pounds or more, which you can look at the identification tag right inside the door, you can also do that 25,000 plus 20% that 20% additional depreciation. Hey, so today we're talking about the subject is the customer always right? So before we dive into it, everybody probably has heard that term or that saying out there. Is the customer always right? In fact, there's many people that have written books about it.
They probably will. They won't say is. They will say the customer is always right.
And they really mean something deeper than that, because there's some other people out there, if you're really a factual-based person, you're like, that's not real, Matt. Like, the customer can't always be right. Like, I hear you. You're the same person that if they say, hey, give it 150%, you're like, 100% is all you can give mathematically. I get it. So you've tuned into the right podcast today.
Yes.
Because we're going to talk about, is the customer always right? The short answer is no. But it doesn't stop there. This isn't a one-word answer.
No.
So we really need to peel it back. Now let's think about that. And I'm going to ask you guys, like, is the customer always right? Well, no. Because think about this. If the customer came in and they said, hey, we're just not completely happy with this vehicle. We want you to pay it off and want to keep the vehicle.
But they bought it like 4 months ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago.
Do you say yes?
No.
Just because the customer's always right?
Absolutely not.
No.
You don't. So if the customer comes in and their vehicle's got 125,000 miles and they bought it from you since mile 1, they don't have a extended warranty on it, motor goes out, motor's $22,000, do you just pay for the motor?
No.
So customer comes back in and 6 months later, they're like, I want my old car back. Do you just unwind that deal and give it back to them?
No.
No, you don't. You don't. So the customer's not always right. But I'm going to see what y'all think about this. I would rephrase that the customer always needs to be heard.
Yes.
And I think when we pause right there, that's where most people make the mistake. I can't tell you how many times, and I know we're going to go into this, that I've had to sit down with managers and walk them through situations with a customer. And I can see it. I can see it on their face that they're waiting to tell me the facts of how they were not wrong, or their employees, when they said that, were not wrong. And I don't argue that fact. I don't argue that, yeah, they were wrong. What I argue was, did you slow down and was the customer heard?
I think that's a good point, that it's not necessarily the action that is taken, it's how it unfolds. And so you can say no, but in a different way, so that everyone feels like they're like, you know what, you're human, I get it, I'm human, you're right. Thank you for listening, and thank you for offering a solution. That's the number one thing you'll hear from our team.
Absolutely.
Straight from our mouths to the managers, then to every other person. Don't just say no. Offer a solution. And this is the same. We've talked about this a couple times. 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. And listen.
That's right. So I'm going to go additional step farther here, is because some of y'all are thinking out there that are small business owners. You're like, yeah, but how many times do I do something that we didn't cause, but just for customer satisfaction? Hey, I agree. Now, you got to remember, in our context, a lot of times I'll have a business owner come in and be like, well, let me tell you about how when I fixed this or I did this repair, and, you know, it was a $50 or $100 repair. Like, well, they're asking me to take back an $80,000 vehicle. Like, it's a little bit different, you know?
Yeah.
But there are situations, like, for example, you've got to quantify on a piece that you're going to repair, or you're going to do an at-will, like where the threshold is. So we've talked about this before. Let's say it was an oil change, and it was $50 or $100. And if you've got somebody that's upset, it took too long, or something didn't work, and they didn't feel good about it, we're not going to argue that point. You know what I mean? Same thing, we were talking to our body shop manager the other day about this, and let's say a car came in and the damage was on the front end, and they leave. Car had 70,000 miles on it, but the light bulb and the tail light went out. Now, that could be because it has 70,000 miles on it. The customer relates that, well, hey, when I brought my vehicle in, the tail light was working. Well, sir, we didn't even get around the rear tail light. But that bulb, let's take a non-LED. That bulb, was a $15 bulb, took half an hour to replace or whatever. Fix the bulb and move on.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, like, it just depends. And when you so it's like, there's not a handbook and there's not a reason or a here's when. yes, and here's when no, because when you said that, I got to thinking, I just happened to be walking through the service drive about a month ago, and there was a customer, and I could just see this look on their face of like, I'm not enjoying this, right?
Yeah.
And I said, hi, guys, I'm Shelby. Hey, I can see a look on your face. Tell me what's going on.
Sure.
And so they had a 2014, it was a Lincoln, it was a Ford Edge, one of the two, but it was the SUV crossover, second row. And I said, what's going on? And they said, hey, we came to get a computer reprogram on our vehicles. There was an issue. There was a recall that covered it. It was a reprogram. I said, okay, perfect. Now, did everything go good with that? They said, yeah, that's not our issue. I said, okay, what's the issue? They said, our rear power hatch isn't working. I said, okay, now, is your warranty covered? They said, no, we're so far out of warranty. We got 150,000 miles. I said, okay. So that didn't cover this part. Now let's look at the rear hatch. I said, did we work on anything with the rear hatch? They were in for a computer reprogram.
Sure.
We plugged it into the OBD2 port. We went through the details. It was a recall that handled it. And they said, no, but when we brought it, the hatch worked. I said, okay, have you had any issues with the hatch? Like, walk me through this. They said, yeah, I had some issues before where it would go halfway up and it would stop. Mm-hmm. And then we would just manually put it back down. But it doesn't work now.
Sure.
And I said, hey, do you mind if I'm just real with you? And they said, please do, because this is a bad situation. It's $1,800, and we shouldn't have to pay for it. And I'm sitting in the corner like, your dog had cancer, and you brought it here to get its head shaved, and now, like, the dog died here, and I need to buy you a new dog? I'm like, no, it's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can't just say it's not my fault. And I said, hey, guys, let's check this out. You know, there's got to be some options here. We didn't touch your rear hatch. I need you to realize as a business owner, is this crew taking care of you? Why should they have to take care of that? We didn't build the vehicle. It's got 150,000 miles. It served you well. It's had issues. But then I got to talk with the team. It was like, hey, let's offer them a solution.
Sure. Yeah, let's figure something out.
Let's offer them a solution to reduce the cost to repair it. And so that was our easiest way to not say no, because I could see it on their face. They were working on their Google review or how do we go to the Better Business Bureau. That will happen every day.
You know, we have it come in, and this is now I'm not saying this is a common one, but this one's happened multiple times. This customer will just buy a vehicle, brand new tires, everything else. As you guys know, there's a lot of construction in Northwest Arkansas. They'll run over something.
Yeah.
It'll go through their tire, slash the tire. It's not repairable. They come back in and they're like, yeah, but the car's brand new. Well, you ran over something, though. Yeah. Like, it's not Goodyear's fault. It's not Ford's fault. It's not Ram's fault.
And it's surely not our fault.
You ran over something.
Yes.
But you've got to remember, and some of you are laughing in the car listening to this right now because you deal with this in your business, and it's part of dealing with the rebuild.
Or this has been you, and you didn't realize it's your fault.
Like, oh, man. Yeah, it's really in our business, we own every single product. This is not a return product that we can send it back to Jeep or we can send it back to Ford.
No.
But when they come in, they're upset, obviously, because they need a new tire and it's $350 for the tire, so on and so forth. It's your job to walk them through and to be heard, which we're going to get to, and how to do that. So hopefully you can put those tools in place at your business. But how they can be heard, and then they can get options.
Yeah.
So no different than you talked about repairing the hatch. It's like, okay, retail amount on that's $1,800. We've all established that, hey, guys, you'd had issues with it before. You came in and it decided to go out when you were leaving, But here's how we would like to help.
Yeah.
We feel bad about the situation. I think we can both agree that we didn't touch the hatch, but you're here, and sequence of events, the stars lined up, and that's when it happened.
Yeah.
But here's the solution.
Yeah.
Like you said. Okay, so the biggest point here is you need to flip this, and the customer must be heard.
Yes.
And before we go over how the customer must be heard, I need you to think about this or write this down so you can share it with your team. The customer cannot be heard if you're talking. So the number one rule is whether the customer is right or whether the customer is wrong, you must listen. I don't know how many times we've already said this on this podcast.
That is a hard thing to do, and that's why we've said it so many times. Because a lot of people, they're trying to save time. They're trying to get more done, and so they hear like, "Hey, I'm gonna stop you right there. It's not covered. That was already pre-existing." And what does that do to the person on the side? It just fires them up. They get mad.
It says they weren't listening, and they don't care.
So the fix to
They
that,
didn't even try.
yeah, they didn't even hear what I had to say because I was about to I was going to change my mind. Yeah, that's what the customer says. And so the number thing, and it sometimes in phone calls that I've taken, it's a, I walk through it like, hey, tell me what's going on. And it's just a pen and a paper, and I'm writing things down. And here's how you know if you're a good listener and they're not face-to-face with you. They might stop for a second. Sometimes it's 20 minutes in, and they'll say, are you still there?
I love when they do that. And my response there is, yes, I am. I'm just taking notes so I make sure that I can address the problem specifically.
Yes. It is so important.
And then what do you ask? It's really important. We're getting into a different subject here, but let's interject this. When the customer's talking and you're taking notes and you're being quiet, there's a false sense on when you should engage.
Correct, because they'll pause. Maybe because they're just getting their breath or trying to think if there's anything else.
But there's a key question as you think they're about done that you can ask them about sticking the thermometer. Is it time for me to talk? What is that?
I say, Matt, hey, I hear all these concerns. Is there anything else that is an issue that I can help you address today?
That's so important that you ask that question. Is there anything else? Because you're making sure you're at the bottom and they feel heard.
Just like they're like, like I've vomited everything, and they're thinking that you're about to I'm talking about like a rap song, like like you're wrong here, you're wrong here, you're wrong here. And I say, hey, Matt, oh my gosh, I get it. Like, now, was there anything else?
Yes.
That I could help you address today? And they're like, are you kidding me? I've been talking for 48 minutes.
And you have to let it sit there think of it this way as like an analogy of a spring. If that spring still has tension on it and it doesn't completely unload, you're never going to get it fully out and fix the problem because it's going to sit there. And if you dive into and you try to, because a lot of times you've learned this through the process and taught each of us of going and growing up, and then in return teaching managers, you try to combat it as the things come out. And what does that do? You're taking gasoline and you're pouring it on the fire while you're spraying it with a lawn hose that is barely coming out, and it is doing nothing. You sit there and spin. So you have
That's
to
a great analogy. There is a fire.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And you can talk, which is the gasoline.
Yes.
But you could only talk when the fire is completely out.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean because you listened to them that you're going to do what they're asking for.
Not at all.
The number one goal is for a customer to be able to answer yes to, was I heard? Did they listen to me? And was there effort put out there? That was about 3 in there.
That was pretty. And another thing that I'll say sometimes that we've heard and used, if somebody's angry, and they're generally angry from lack of communication.
Yeah.
From lack of communication.
That's it.
Because nobody wants to talk to them because they just come on strong. And they probably come on strong because they've had a reoccurring issue or no one called back. But and you might think it's smart, but it's not. I'm going to say, hey, Matt, I want to thank you. And Matt's pretty angry in this situation. And he's hollering, maybe adding character building words. And I said, Matt, I just want to take a quick second to thank you for being so calm. In your scenario, I will be way more fired up. Now, keep in mind, Matt's on the other side, just
dog cussing.
Lord, just goddamn. And I'm saying, and you're thinking like, Shelby, that's so stupid. That's sarcastic.
Try it today.
Try it today when you're
You'll
listening
laugh.
and taking notes and say, hey, Matt, I just want to thank you for being so calm. In your situation, I would be way more wound up.
Golly, when you do that, we had somebody teach us that early on in our career. And when you get that, you think it's cheesy and you think they're going to think it's smart aleck. But when you thank them for being so calm and you thank them for taking time to bring it to your attention, because if you didn't bring it to my attention, I wouldn't be able to fix this. And I rely on my team. And I want to make sure not only you get taken care of, but all of our other customers as well. When you thank them for being calm in this, it's like you want to take the fire truck just pulled up and went boom with all the water.
All on top of the fire, but more times than not. Not to say you sit there and you ride a bull over and over and over and over again to accomplish what you're trying to do. When you sit there, that guy that's been arrogant, everything else is dog cussing, you saying this, bad, that, you say that, it makes them step back. It's a silent punch that just came across them.
So good.
And you don't even have to do anything. It's just you asking that, sit back, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Hey, we're all humans, okay? And at different levels we communicate, but at the core, we all want to be heard.
Yeah.
And we were frustrated, and it might have been one of our employees' faults, but it might have been something that happened that was out of our control. But no matter what the circumstance, before you give the facts and you try to find a resolution and a solution, the customer has to answer the question, was I heard? Did they care?
Yep.
And another piece to that, I'm going to go over this. I was just meeting with the service advisors last week, and I was telling them, I'm like, you guys know the answer to the question, but it's because you're in the business every single day, and you've seen this problem 1,000 times.
Yep.
You have to go through, I'm not going to say go through the motions, but you have to let the customer know what goes on behind the scenes. You expect that they know that we called so-and-so, we escalated to the regional rep, and we opened the case, and we've done this, and we've done that. But if you don't communicate it, there's no way to know. We all can answer that question with our spouses before. You know, we're like, well, you didn't let me know you did all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know you went through all that and you did all that extra effort. So when I was talking to him last week, I said, sometimes a simple fact of getting in the car and driving it around the back of the building instead of just sitting there in your seat describing it, if they see you go get into the car and you drive it out of their sight, or they see you driving it, they can answer mentally, because 70% of communication is nonverbal. They can answer, hey, there was action taken.
Yeah.
They care. They actually looked at it.
Yeah.
No different than appraising a vehicle. I'll have a customer that I'll be walking through the showroom. They'll be like, hey, is there anything I can help with? Congratulations, your new vehicle. I wish they'd give a little bit more from our trade. We're getting close on the deal. Hey, I'll take a second look at it. No problem at all. Where are the keys at? Well, the sales manager has it over there. Now, let's be honest. All the data is already in the computer.
Yeah.
The pictures, we've already taken all the pictures in the computer. So the shortcut for me would be look at the computer, look at the pictures, see the data, and then figure it out. But the customer doesn't see that. They see me staring at a screen, and they're like, there was no effort that he put in there.
Nonverbal
So every
communication.
single time I get the keys, even though all the data I need is already in the computer, I don't need to go back out to the vehicle. But they see that.
Yeah.
I get the keys. I get in the car. I make sure I drive whichever way they can see me driving. I don't wave at them, okay? But I drive the vehicle around the building, pause, bring it back up, because then they go, he cared.
Yeah.
He took the effort. So this is no different. What we're talking about is the customer always right. No, but the customer always needs to be heard before you take action.
Yeah.
For sure there.
Yep, that's really big.
So that was kind of the main part of this, is we want everybody to understand is the customer needs to be heard, not necessarily always right. We wanted to flip that question over. And then we're going to go into the next part about the customer being upset, the customer being angry. But before we do that, it's our automotive fun fact quiz of the week. Hey, the first speeding ticket, okay? Not by you guys, but the first speeding
I can
ticket.
tell you about mine.
This is before your time, okay?
Okay.
Was in 1904.
Yeah, it was 2 years.
Was this on a horse or was this a car?
I'm gonna say
How fast was the
Alexander Graham
driver
Bell.
going? A, 12 miles per hour, B, 25, C, 50, and D, 100.
1904.
They probably weren't going 100.
120 years ago.
How fast were they going?
12, 25, 50, or 100.
It's got to be.
Don't answer it.
I can't answer yet. All right, to the next subject.
All right, kicking her off there. You know, Matt, we dove into all the different avenues and kind of got a little bit off track, but it was good, relevant information that we needed to know there. But personalizing our customer experience of rolling into there, as far as going over, how would you say, how have we done that over the years of shifting it to different types of customers and being able to just adapt to them?
It comes down to communication. Let me tell you who you need to go talk to. If you're a business owner right now, you need to go talk to the people that have been with you the longest. It's not the people that started last week, because the people that started last week, they don't have the track record of what to do in those situations. It's the ones that have worked for you for 10 years, 15 years. and they've seen the same issue, and they know the answer. In our case, they know what the warranty company is going to say. They know what the banks are going to say. They know what the vehicle's worth. So then they're trying to shortcut it to be more efficient in their mind. You need to go have a meeting with them to let them know, hey, I know you know the answer, but before you give the answer, the customer must feel heard, and they must see effort and action on your part before you give the solution.
Mm-hmm. So if you learn those constants, right, that we might see as a, hey, this is an issue, and it's not like an issue like a personnel issue, and it's not like another issue that you see, but it's, hey, this is a constant struggle, and this is taking time. Like, we want to hear people, but some people are long-winded. So then you see, can I change something in the process still has the effectiveness of listening to the customer or understanding their concern, that maybe is a different person before the advisor, maybe is a different person before the salesperson or before the finance manager, that can make sure that customer is heard, but is still efficient within our process to be able to process the people. So there's value with the consumer that may have an issue, and there's value as a business that we're still able to stay efficient and stay profitable.
That's true, and that's why you'll see a lot of, not just in our industry, but a lot of industries, customer relation managers or CSI managers, so on and so forth, that are great, that are even better than some of the other employees of just listening and taking down the information.
So we learned that. It's funny when you point that out. If you have a concern, if someone has a concern, who do they want to speak with? They want to speak with the manager, right? And as the Lewis brothers, everyone wants to speak with us. And generally it's, hey, I know Jim Lewis. I want to talk to him. Our father's name is Tim, but most people went to school with Jim, and I don't think he ever changed his name.
No.
But people just want to know people, and it's okay. Like, I've never, I don't know if you guys have ever called somebody out and said they are wrong, right? You know? I had a guy telling me Saturday that he was really good friends with the Lewis brothers. I was talking to him specifically, and he said, when you see him, tell him I'm here and they need to make something work because it's me and we're really good friends. And I said, I'm going to make sure that the brothers hear what you have to say and that we can take care of you today, sir.
Did you walk in the office, then walk back out and say, hey, I'm one of the Lewis brothers?
No, but I did that one time.
Did you have your name tag on?
Yes.
No. You had your name tag on? They were looking at you?
Yes. But I never. One time I have with Freddie and there was an angry customer, and I had listened and I had done all the things. I said, sir, I don't know how you're so calm. And he's like, I'm not calm, MFer. And I'm like, hang on, cool. He's like, I want to speak with one of the managers. And so I mainly did like the used car and spun her. And I was like, hello, sir, my name's Shelby. I'm one of the managers. And he was like, that didn't help the situation. But I was like young, and I was like, hey, good to meet you. But so we have a person that's a customer relations manager, and it's not because we don't want to talk to you. But if you take 1,600 ROs plus another 1,200 ROs, in Prairie Grove math, that's a lot. Plus 100 new customers and 75 new customers. And it's a lot. It's thousands, probably over 4,000 separate customers per month circulating through.
So it becomes an efficiency point there. Is like, you still want to be involved, but you can help somebody that can maybe do some of the heavy lifting.
You give somebody some power. To then reach out to the people before it's escalated to a bad issue.
Sure.
And so then this person is checking on these people at a survey point level, at a Google review level, and to say, hey, I hear you. Let me dive into that and see if there's another option or another solution we didn't look into. And then if it gets to an issue of like, hey, this is something that really needs attention, it comes to us on our desk or in a conversation, and then we're like, oh, hey,
we'll do this.
Go to parts and ask for this.
Absolutely.
They've got this, and that allows us. But in efficiency manner, we found that person that could handle that. And that allowed us to help more people.
And you've got to be able to do that. And sometimes, in the case of, we'll talk about service or repair on a vehicle because it's the industry we're in, but it might be that they're gathering all the information to open up a claim or what we would call a ticket or a case number with the manufacturer, so then we can grab a hold of it and use the horsepower, the influence we have to be able to help that. And then they've been heard, the action's been taken. So again, it's not, if we can make it right, and if the customer's right, by all means, let's get it right. But what's more important to me is when a customer leaves, for whatever the circumstance was, that they say, the effort was put in and I was heard. Might not have been the outcome I wanted, but they did put the effort in there, you know?
That's big to remember there. Hey, going back on your communication, talking about going with your long-tenured employees, it's really important to remember this. And now you have to do it delicately.
Sure.
Whenever you're going through. But go back to them, lean on them. Hey, during this time, this is how I handled this process, everything else. But know, whenever you're going through and getting with them, hey, it's okay to change and do things differently. Here, I'm great for that structure that you have in there, but it's okay to add these extra pieces, which you get from newer employees that come in that are bright, that bring things in there. So remember always that it's good to add that.
It is, and I'll run you through an exercise real quick here. So if you're going like, how do I do that? So if I'm talking to, let's take service advisors again.
Yep.
If I'm talking to some service advisors, I'll bring up a known concern or a known this or that, and I'll just ask the room. I would say, hey, if a customer came in with XYZ code, how would you handle that? Would you know what the manufacturer would say? Would they approve or would they decline it? I'd say, everybody answer. Yeah. And they all answer. No. How many times have you submitted that? 100 times, won't get approved, blah, 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 blah. So they all raise their hand. And then I love the whiteboard. So then I'll grab the whiteboard and I'll say, hey, tell me what goes on behind the scenes to see if that's approved or not approved. Like tell me the interactions. Is a phone call made? Is an email sent? Is a ticket open? Did we ask the tech? Did we run the diag? Like walk me through everything behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And we'll end up coming up with a whole board of here's what happened. And then so I've got to set them up for this alley-oop.
Yeah.
And I'll say, but what did we tell the customer?
Yeah.
Well, we told the customer that was declined. That it wasn't approved.
No, it's declined.
Did we tell them how we got there? This board right back here that we wrote all this stuff down in, why don't we communicate with them all the effort that we went to instead of just saying no? So before you hit them with no, it's going to be $1,800. Let me explain to you what we've done. We've opened a case. We've escalated it. We've had the tech do a pinpoint test. We've resubmitted it over. We asked for forgiveness. We saw if we could get an exception, so on and so forth. Now, we were unable to get an exception, but what we could do is help you with the cost on it.
That's the alternate solution, right? And so you're not saying no. It's no different than teaching kids, right? We're all growing kids and like listening and learning, and so we talk about it. More oftentimes, you just want to say no.
Yep.
Like, hey, can I go light the trampoline over?
No.
No. Like, hey, can I go over to Beavis's house? No. Hey, can I do this? Hey, can I have ice cream? It's 10 p.m. No. But then you have to stop and realize, let me explain to you why.
Why?
Because they need to understand why. It's a teaching moment. Natural reaction. 99% of the world is just natural reaction. No, hey, that's a known issue within a Ford. They're not replacing the cam phasers. It's part of it. You're on your own. It's going to be $4,800 to replace those cam phasers. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever had an issue with a Ford. I'll never buy another Ford again. Lewis Ford screwed me.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, hang on, I didn't build the car. And so, like Matt's saying, you just can break it down.
You got to break it down. And what I was going over with them last week is I said, you think you're shortcutting to saving everybody time, but here's what happens: is customer leaves, they don't say yes to the $4,800 repair.
Yeah,
they leave, they fill out a bad review.
Yeah,
okay. So then manager gets involved.
Oh yeah,
manager spends an hour on the phone with them,
listening to everything. And
then they have the advisor call them back.
Yes,
okay, like. They first have to meet with them for 30 or 45 minutes, breaking it down. Then they have to call the customer back to invite them back in to relook at it, see if there's another solution. So we're talking 6 to 12 hours here.
Well, that's 3 to 4 extra people.
After the fact versus if you would have taken less than 5 minutes to prevent it from the front end. Or even worse, somebody never leaves a review. They never say anything, but they never come back and they never recommend you know?
And that's going to lead us straight into this next part of it that is really important, what we're founded upon, what has helped us grow throughout the years of building the community of we do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. So, again, the customer has to answer that question. Were they heard? Was the effort put there? And even if it wasn't the outcome I wanted, do I feel valued?
They're going to say, hey, if someone says, like, I was up there and this wasn't covered, if you build that community outside of your dealership, outside of your business, all business owners, that they know that you're going to provide a solution. You do that enough times, the repetition, it becomes muscle memory for everyone. They're like, hey, call them again and say, hey, I know this isn't covered. It's no difference than, like, we were talking about this the other day about yelling at a ref. Like, the ref knows you're going to yell at him.
Sure.
But if you're just like, hey, ref, like, I know, like, that wasn't right. Can I get some help here? And they're like, oh, dude, thanks for not yelling at me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they're like, hey, why don't you call back? And so then you call back and like, hey, I know my cam phasers aren't covered. Is there any other option? So if you build that community of taking care of customers and offering solutions, we're not handing out coupons of money, right?
No.
Don't get that wrong. We're not just handing out buying customers, but we are offering solutions, and we'll do what's right.
Sure.
If it's something we've done wrong, craftsmanship, 100%, we're going to take care of that. If we sold you something and we said you get A, B, and C, and somehow you only got A and B, come on back around and we'll get you C exactly as we told you would get it. But if there's an issue there, build that community so then they say, hey, go talk to one of those guys up there. They're going to take care of you.
I think you hit a good point there, and then I'm going to go to online with communicating, and then we'll wrap up with what you're talking about. But I do want to pause. Shelby just hit on something right there. You know, if we did something wrong, or even if it's in the gray area, we're the first ones to step up and take care of it.
Yeah.
The only way you can see that if you are the lead manager or if you're the owner is to have an unbiased opinion and hear both sides.
Yes.
It's no different than when your kids you were talking about. Like, I always stay neutral ground, and I hear the customer completely out. I sit the employee down, and I hear it completely out to be unbiased, to be able to figure out, are we in a gray area here?
Generally two different stories.
Oh, every single time it is. But you can't go into the conversation with blinders on thinking one way. You'll miss it. Let's go online, because we've talked about a bunch of scenarios in person.
Yeah.
So what happens online? What happens when we have a bad Google review or a bad Yelp review or a bad Facebook review that comes through? Well, what do we do then to make them feel hurt?
It's super aggravating because most of the time you already know about the concern and you've offered some solutions and they didn't like it. They're looking for the free coupon. I don't know, right? But it is so important, and we've learned this. We want to be like the one guy. There was some guy in West Virginia.
I know, just go off.
That he's just like, really tells them like it is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look, you're a 400 credit score. You couldn't buy a stick of gum. You came in with no money down.
I know.
Your sister didn't have any pants on. You know, just all of this
the
stuff.
whole thing.
Well, do not do that. But
don't.
the most important thing online is just respond to their review. Because you could have, like right now...
Now, what do you mean respond to the view? Where everybody can see it, or are you taking it offline?
Yes.
So, both things, right?
Okay.
So,
All
if
right,
I see it
walk
on
me through
Facebook, what I would do if I saw something that was a bad review, and this isn't to quiet the people, this is to let people know on two different faces.
Okay.
If Miss Mary has an issue and she's left a review or a comment that says, hey, do not go to Lewis Ford, I've had bad service.
Yes.
I will go and respond, maybe as me, maybe as a dealership, and say, hey, Miss Mary, I hate to hear that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I would love to go through all the details in a conversation with you to see what type of solution we can provide for you. If you don't mind, if you'll reach out to me directly, here's my contact information. And that covers two things.
Okay.
That allows Miss Mary to realize that we're human, she's human, and we want to offer a solution.
Okay.
But I do it publicly so everyone can see that even on a bad day, these people will take care of people and at least listen to what the... And so Google review, Facebook review, Yelp review, that is an automatic. No matter how bad it is and no matter what they say, we will give a, hey, we want to listen. And generally when we listen, I'm not doing that just for PR. I assure you we're not running for election. It's a PR because we care. And it's, hey, reach out to me. And so then we'll fully dissect that, sit down with the manager, pull this ticket, pull this ticket, pull this ticket, pull these voice records. Hey, Miss Mary, come on in, let's talk. We break that down. We go through the two things. We find common ground.
Sure.
We take emotions out of hers. We take emotions out of his. And we say, oh, there it is right there. Got it. And we say, here's what we can do. But you have to do that. It's two-part, right?
Two-part. Now, so everybody understands the two parts that Shelby's talking about. Publicly, you always comment on there about, thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'd like to further this discussion with you, see if we can figure out a solution. Here's a direct number to reach out to me at. But you do not dissect it and try to find the solution publicly.
No one is ever on a Facebook discussion.
Because as we started this, the customer's not always right.
No.
Okay? And if they don't get what they want sometimes, that they want to keep going publicly. So don't let that catch fire. You're just showing that, hey, if something does happen, we understand. We want to continue. We want to reach out. And then you take that offline.
Yep.
You take it offline. So you've got to make sure that publicly it's out there. You're letting everybody know we're here. Because I don't know about y'all, but if I go and I look at a product or a company, and let's say they've got 5,000 reviews, and I start looking at all the 5-star, 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 then I might sort it and say, hey, well, show me the bad ones.
Yep.
And hey, I get it. We're all in the business of public. Like somebody's going to have a bad day or this or that. So I'm not looking of, hey, they've got 15 1-star reviews and 4,500 5-star. I want to know, how did they handle that? I can also read one of those 1-star reviews to go, is this a legitimate person?
Yeah.
Or is this a Karen?
Because in today's world, everyone, it's a review. Express your feelings.
Yes.
Tell us how you feel. The kind of world we're in, right? You can't change that.
The worst thing you could do is not respond and not interact.
Which is a good point, because a lot of times you might text me and I might not respond. And then, I'm not talking about good, bad, or ugly. I'm just talking.
Sure.
A lot of times I won't respond to my wife because I saw that she didn't need direct attention. She just sent me something and I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, I agree, or whatever, I'm not overly a vocal person within all that. When it comes review time or business time, I have to flip the script, and it's like, I need to tell these people I saw it, I hear you, here's how you contact me, let's talk.
Absolutely.
Big recap of that whole section going over there. Make sure you're addressing the customer, showing them their expectations, as far as going in with the customer, giving them clear expectations of what the path would look like. And the big deal of online, because we are in the online era right now, making sure you address it.
Yep.
As far as letting know that I'm here to help you, not addressing and going over the whole concern or anything else, dissect it online like Matt talked about. That's a very important part to stick on there. Hey, but we got to dive back into our fun fact.
Okay, tell me. What
Fun fact of the day. So, it was the first speeding ticket given in 1904. How fast were we going? We gave the options of 12, 25, 50, and 100.
What was it?
It's 12 miles an hour. It had to have been a horse. It had to have been a horse.
Over?
No, it's 12 miles an hour. It was actual factual 12 miles an hour.
Hey, don't you know that there was somebody on horseback that was outrunning the car right then? No different than what we're going with in gas and EVs right now, saying, you silly guy in that internal combustion motor, my horse can outrun you.
And I would like to even question, which this is completely getting off in there, how did they even gauge he was going 12 miles an hour? There's no way they had radar.
It's the same way they do with the crop dusters. They have markers.
Yes.
They had a stopwatch.
Did
they have clocks back then?
No, they had the pocket watch.
Yeah, pocket watch.
So they had markers.
Yes.
I have no clue, but that's my educated guess. All right, so another part I want to talk about is the customer wrong or right.
Okay.
One thing that we have crafted to be able to handle this, like, you can all see our hands not raised when I ask this question, or if you're just listening online. And shout out, you can watch this on YouTube, so you could watch this. But no one would raise their hand and say, I love dealing with heat, right? We can be our very best at it, but it's still not fun. But what we have learned to do is take a bad situation and create a raving fan.
There is an opportunity there unlike any customer, because you get to walk through a situation with them, and it stands out in their mind greater than anything you could have done if everything would have went perfect on the sale on the front end. If you take a customer with a situation and you figure out a solution, not I just tell you you're right and here's an open checkbook.
Yeah.
I figure a solution and you were heard and we walk through this together, they become a raving fan of yours. And as a business owner, there is nothing more gratifying than taking a situation and a customer that is upset, that might be dog cussing you and your business and your employees and the experience, and let them be heard and dump that, finding a solution, and then them leaving. I promise you this, they become a raving fan of yours. And what I mean by that is they tell everybody how good you did.
huge.
There's never been a better red carpet photo
It's so good.
than with the grumpy customer that none of the salespeople wanted to deal with. They just kept saying, Taylor, this guy wants to talk to you. Taylor, this guy wants to talk to you. Service is like, Taylor, you need to talk to this person. Like, okay, hang on, let me get to him. Like, I'm still handling this one. And
I had one of those yesterday, and I had to say, this is the funniest part, and it's not... To be completely honest, yes, I want to talk to somebody that I know can do whatever they need to do. That's just natural human instinct of you wanting to get a solution.
Yeah.
And they're tired of getting stuck through everything else. I had 3 different people. We was filling in one of our spots over in our pre-owned department. I was trying to help the new guys over there. I had a mad customer that was mad about this in service. I'm like, where are my service managers at to be able to help here? But okay, finally got out there, looked over, it was about 4 o'clock. I was just eating lunch. It was great. It's how it normally goes. And got a hold of this customer. And I said, woo! I am so sorry, Mr. Smith. I'll say Mr. Smith for going over there. But I said, I'm so sorry for just getting back to you. I've been through meetings. I'm going through this other. And you are so important to me of going through. Listened to him for 5 minutes. He was so excited after people hadn't communicated with him. That was the number one draw that we had dropped the whole time. They had not communicated with him. I said, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to come back around and we're going to do X, Y, and Z one more time because I want it to be perfect. I want you to have this truck. We went and got it for you. It's what you've always wanted. Nothing else will be the same. And he was a raving fan after text me this morning and said, thank you so much for sending me a vehicle, taking care of me. That's why I continue to do business with you.
Everybody out there should have a part of their business model, even on that like one sheet when you first went to the bank or you had your business idea, is I want to build my business off of repeats and referrals. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, open that back up and modify it.
Yeah.
If you don't build your business off repeats and referrals, you do not have a long-term successful business.
Because the tricky part is it's so expensive and so difficult to acquire new customers.
Not only that, it's even more expensive where if you've got a customer that's upset that you don't take the time and effort to deal with, on how that torpedoes your business.
There's only so many matches to burn, internally and externally. Mm-hmm. And so if your employees know that you're not going to handle it or you're not going to call it is like it is and let's find a solution, that's not fun. But if they know that they can always count on the team to have the great idea and offer a solution, then they'll have your back when you need them to have your back.
So how do you turn that customer into a raving customer? Well, we've been talking about it for 45 minutes. But what you need to do, they got to be heard.
Got to be heard. It's in your communication. It's offering a solution. And so we've said offer a solution. A lot of this stuff comes to us because we just constantly working on it, but I realize not all of it is just all common sense to everyone. So let me break that down. Offering a solution. So if there's a customer that has an issue with a vehicle in service, it needs an engine. Okay. They come in, they want us to replace the engine.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't think you go back and get your dog replaced after 12 years, but it happens, right?
Sure.
So whatever your issue is, if you're an HVAC and 12 years later the HVAC system has gone out and they want you to replace it, I don't think anybody's got a 12-year warranty.
I don't think
or a 12-year guarantee that they stand
We
behind
just got
it.
to do construction. They don't.
We get a one year. I mean, we've gone best to the best, and you get a 1 year. And after that, they'll politely say you're on your own.
Yep.
And so here's what we do. We would say, hey, Mrs. Smith, we checked it out, and we went back through and asked the manufacturer, is there any exception here to get her? She's done all our service records. She's put all the recommended specs of oil. She's done all the things. Is there any help on the engine? And they said no. And we were like, shoot. So, Mrs. Smith, we didn't stop there. Here's the solutions we want to offer to you. This is no different than the good, better, best,
That's
or
right.
small, medium, large, right? And so here's what we got quoted. This is a brand new Ford motor. This is going to have a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. That's on parts. That's on labor. And that's going to be $14,800. Our next option was to find a remanufactured warranty. That's a company that's gone through and completely redone this engine to specs.
Yep.
You know, they've redecked the cylinder heads, they put new gaskets in it, and it's going to have a 6-month unlimited mile warranty.
Okay.
And that thing is going to cover parts and labor, and that's going to be a less cost feature, and that's going to be $11,200 $200.
Okay.
Right? So that's a solution as well. And here's the last option, because I didn't want to just leave you with two options. Here is a used engine that we found from a car from the salvage yard, from an operating vehicle that just had some damage to the external of it. It has similar miles. Yours has 60,000. This one has 50,000.
Okay.
This one comes with a 3-month warranty, and that's just on the parts.
Okay.
So if there was an issue and we had to go in that we could get another engine, you would be out for the labor to remove it and put it back in, and that one's going to be $9,800. Of all those, did you have any questions about the 3 different options you have to get your car back on the road?
So what you did right there is, instead of just saying, hey, it's not covered under warranty, it's $14,000, you want to fix it, you took, that whole presentation took less than 3 minutes. You took time, explained to them what effort we had gone through, that they had been heard, and then you came up with 3 different solutions. So now they're making a decision based upon one of those 3, not do I want to repair it or not.
Oh, we always talk about this. I talked about it yesterday in a sales meeting. You know, it's no different than going to dinner. If you don't want to cook tonight and you want to go to dinner, and if your wife is as great as mine, and the greatest, but allows me to make all the decisions, I know better than to say, hey, where do you want to go to eat? You pick them and say, hey, there's 3 places that I approve that always make sense for me. And so I'm winning no matter what she picks. But I say, hey, do you want to go to Logan's? Do you want to go to Longhorn's? Or do you want to go to Colton's? Which one of those would you like me to treat you with?
Absolutely.
And so then she picks. So Mrs. Smith says, you know what? What's your opinion? What do you think I should do? So it's not a yes or no. It's like, well, Mrs. Smith, often, generally, we're going to go with something with some warranty, right?
Exactly.
So that you're not just spending the money, because if the engine goes out on the one, you're on your own. And I would hate for you to have to do that. But if it comes down to money and it means your car runs or doesn't run, I think that's a good option. I think this is a little bit better option.
Sure.
And here's why I think this makes sense, but it's totally up to you.
So as a business owner out there, here's what you need to know. You're dealing with heat or an angry customer, and it's not necessarily you that created that heat. Okay, so let's first uncover that. Because a lot of times you take a personal, like, son of a gun, I'm having to deal with this again. But let me explain something to you. As a business owner, you're going to have to deal with this. And you've got 2 options. And the option is not whether it's going to come at you or not. It's, are you going to take the time and walk somebody through it and turn them into a raving fan? Or are you going to ignore, not call them back, and fuel the fire for them to talk negatively about your business and your services? That's what it really comes down to. I can tell you this. If you take somebody that's a squeaky wheel and an angry customer, and then maybe they're the person, when you look up reviews, that they've only left negative reviews out there. If you can flip that person to be a raving fan, everybody else that they influence, they know how hard they are to please.
Yes.
And they're like, man, if the Lewises could please that person, they've got to be a great place to do business with, because they know their record.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really important when we start looking at that, is you have an opportunity to flip somebody as a raving fan. It takes time, it takes effort, but it's easier said than done. It starts with just shutting your mouth and listening. Shutting your mouth and listening.
So there's one last point that is a tricky thing, but when to let the customer move on.
Yeah.
That's so
You know, when do you let the customer, and we'll call it fire the customer. I wouldn't tell the customer, hey, I'm firing you, but that's the terminology. And that's like a 1%er, right? Like, we're going to offer the solutions. We're going to offer, hey, let's trade you into something else. Hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? Afford Pass Rewards Visa credit card to help pay for this. So what's your guys' thoughts? When's a good time to fire a customer?
After the customer's been heard.
Yep.
You know, after we've offered up multiple solutions, and then maybe even they've come back in and we've gone through the process, and there is just not a solution there, and they are just way, I got to say this, we're just way off their rocker.
Yeah.
You know, and you've listened and you've listened, and then they've continued to talk. You thought you've drained the well 3 times, and you bring it back up. Or every time they come into the showroom, they're cussing and yelling and causing a distraction. The first couple times you respectfully try to handle it.
Yeah.
And then you just have to, lack of better words, you got to fire that customer.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't like to do that. That's last resort. But there are times we have to do that because it's causing a scene.
Yeah.
And we have gone through. But before we do that, we have to answer those questions.
Yeah.
No different than the time, tools, and training question.
Yeah.
Have we sat down with them personally? Have we interviewed to look at see if there's any other solutions? And how many times have we ran at this? Have we tried to trade them out a vehicle? Have we tried to look for another solution?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's important, and if they don't align with your moral business, how you're trying to do business, if it's not good business, they don't stand for. And I'm not saying everyone has to be a billboard for what you do, but if you can't get them to somewhere, find a similarity, it's just time to move on. And it's a polite thing of like, hey, I don't think we can come to agreement. Like we've gone through all the things, we've offered solutions. Here's how we'd be able to go above and beyond. We've checked with the manufacturer. They're not willing to help above and beyond. Here what we could offer. Can we just agree to disagree that this isn't a good fit?
That is true.
Because chances are they've probably been to 10 to 12 other businesses just like yours, other dealerships, and they didn't give them anything, right? They said, get out the door. Get out the door. So when they go home and lay their head down on their pillow, they're like, hey, this is the least evil out of all the evils out there. And they fired me. Something's wrong with me. Right?
That's right.
So knowing when to fire the customers. So frequently asked questions this week that we want to debunk, dive into, or see what's important to. So what the question I'm asking, I'll ask both you guys, what's a difficult decision you've had to deal with? What's a difficult decision that you've had to deal with? So think about that, like from a customer, from an employee, from a hire or fire, or a sell or don't sell, or should we make this deal happen, and kind of what? So
the most difficult decision that I've had to make in my career and will always still be to me is when I have to let an employee go.
Okay.
You know, it really is. Even if I know that I've given them the time, tools, and training necessary, I realize that it's affecting them and their family.
Yeah.
And that's the most difficult decision to make.
Which means you're human, right?
Yeah, it does.
Which means you're human.
It does.
Right?
Absolutely. I would probably say, and this comes from my whole demeanor and everything else, and wanting to find a solution. But I had this the other day that it ran into me, and this has happened multiple times. And it's always whenever you're at the end of a long day, anything else, that a customer comes in and you've done 150% of what you asked for, and they ask for one more thing.
Yeah.
I had a guy ask for one more thing, and it was minute. It was $200, and I looked at this salesperson and wanted to send them home. I blew up and I was like, no, we're not doing that. And then I retracted my statement 30 seconds later, and I said, absolutely, let's take care of it and move forward. Because there's nothing that's such a hard barrier to try to control. I'm done. I'm not doing anymore. But, yes, I'm going to do more because it's such small. But I don't. It's such a tricky back and forth, but that's difficult for me to be able to run through.
And it's tricky. And I would say with Taylor's demeanor, oftentimes that people will mistake his kindness for weakness.
I agree.
And so it's generally from a salesperson perspective, but oftentimes from a customer perspective. Like, just because I care doesn't mean that you can run over me. And somehow in the car business long ago, but probably when the first speeding ticket was, people decided that we should start this crazy negotiation thing. And so, like, we're a chameleon, so we adapt to it. But it's like, enough is enough. And sometimes, like, I love customizing vehicles, but sometimes I like Taylor customize them. I'm like, Taylor, stop customizing them because everyone wants everything for free.
Yes.
That's right.
Like, they're like, hey, you got the money, just pay for it. Hey, you got the money, just pay for it. I'm like, Taylor, don't put tires on anything else. Don't put window tint on anything else because, like, hey, can I get floor mats or windows? But I guess if they're there asking for something, that means they've shown up to the dealership for doing something right. Find a happy medium, shake hands, and sign them up.
Hey, it's been a great discussion today about, is the customer always right? I'm sure you can relate with now. We say, no, that's really not the real question. Is the customer being heard?
Yeah.
Did you take the effort through there?
Absolutely. Takeaways
today, there's a lot of good discussion. So let's start around the room, Shelby. Let's start with you first. Takeaways from today's discussion.
Listen first, speak second.
That's
Listen first, speak second is always what I will say.
That's good.
Communication with the customer. We've learned this over the years. So when you're listening, then you're speaking, make sure no matter how hard it is, if you have no other answer, communicate with the customer.
All these are resonating the same, and so will mine, is you have to answer the question in your mind. If you are the customer, have you felt like you've been heard and that effort has been put in to try to resolve whatever the issue is? The answer to those questions have to be yes before you get the green light to continue to go down the path. Hey, it's been another great episode today. We're excited that it was number 10 today.
That was huge.
So we've catapulted on with this crazy fun podcast on sharing our information with Northwest Arkansas and beyond. And make sure to subscribe to our channel wherever you're hearing this podcast, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or on Facebook or on Apple. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a comment there, smash that like button, and let us know, as always, if you've got any subjects
If you enjoyed
that you
this
want us to
episode,
cover.
be sure and give it a like, share it with your friends and family, and visit our website to send us questions about what you would like to know about the automotive industry or family business in general. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have. Thank you again, and we'll see you in future shows.